All right, I'm now recording, just so you guys know. Don't be too embarrassed. Oops.
Hello everyone in Classens. Welcome back to another information visualization tutorial. This is week 3. We have a lot to get through today, so we're just going to jump right into it.
Just like last week, we're going to start off with a quote, which reads, "Finding the right visual method is only half the battle. Providing context, showing our own uncertainty, offering some narrative and guidance are all things that are critical to augmenting a user experience and understanding. If we want to improve the visual data literacy of our audience, we are responsible for providing those things." So last week we introduced you to Excel by showing you the assignment 1 data set. So we thought that because that is such a large data set that we will give you a tutorial on the very basics of Excel. So stay tuned. Alrighty guys, the first thing we're going to do is, before we do anything else, we're going to format this data set. Okay, so as you can see, there is 5 columns of data, but it's really hard to distinguish what is the actual data and what is the title of each column. So this tip that I'm going to show you is better for normally bigger data sets, but I'm just going to show you anyway. So if I say, for example, I really like this bold and italic effect on song title, but I want it for artist, place, streams, and country as well, what I would do is I would highlight the cell by just clicking on it, and see this little paintbrush up here. I would click that, and then what I'm going to do is click what I want it to change to and drag it across, and then release my trackpad or mouse, and then it's the same. This is really helpful again for bigger sets of data, maybe not so much smaller sets, but I think it's just a good little tip anyway. So now what I'm going to do is I really want to implement something called conditional formatting. Conditional formatting is a feature in many spreadsheet applications such as Google Sheets or Excel that allows you to apply specific formatting to cells that meet certain criteria. It is most often used as a color-based formatting to highlight, emphasize, or differentiate amongst data and information stored in a spreadsheet. Okay, so in this example, I want to visually see the hierarchy of these streams. So what's the biggest amount of streams and what's the least amount of streams? So what I'm going to do is highlight the portion that I want conditional formatted. So I don't want the title, I just want the data set. And then up here, I'm going to press conditional formatting. Now I'm going to click the arrow, and then there's so many different options you can choose from, okay? But for this case, I'm going to click color scales. And then I think this one with the green and the red is pretty nice. So I'm going to click that. And as you can see, the most green WAP by Cardi B has 716 million streams, so that's the greenest of the lot. And then Cherub by Ballpark Music only has 4 million streams, so it is bright red. And then there's a scale for the rest of the songs. You can change this any way you like. You can even specify different colors, but this is also just a really good tool to be able to instantly see what is max and what is minimum, or whatever you specify your conditional formatting to be. I'm also wanting to conditional format the country, and I want it to bold Australian artist because we really love Australian music here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to, again, it's not really one of the options here. So what I'm going to do is make a new rule, and I'm going to go to this one and click classic. And then I'm going to do only format cells that contain, and then I'm going to type in Australia. And then I don't really want it to be red, but I want to customize. And then I just want it to be bold, okay? And I press OK. And as you can see, only the Australian artists are bolded, okay? So that is basically an introduction to conditional formatting. Now what we want to do is add some formulas. I want to be able to see the average of streams, the total number of streams, the most and least streamed in a way that is not by color. So Excel has this really nifty feature called formulas, where you can do some sort of math equation and it will produce the answer to that really quickly and really easily. Okay, and there's a few ways to do it, but I'm just going to teach you the easiest way, or what I think is the easiest way for now. But again, there are a lot of different ways to write your formulas, so I would highly recommend having a fiddle, having a go, and seeing what you prefer. So the first thing I want to do is see how many million streams there are altogether, okay? So when you're writing a formula, I always like to consider, before I write it, I like to say to myself, this cell is. So this cell is, well, it's equal to the sum, okay? And we write sum, S-U-M, and then we want to say, well, what is it actually adding, or what is the sum going to be? So we use our brackets, and you can either write, say so this is D4. So I want the first bit of the sum to be D4, and then we separate it by a colon, and I want the ending of the sum to be D13. Another way you can do it, right, instead of typing, is you can get it and you can drag it. So that might be a bit better if you have larger data sets, okay? So then I'm going to close off that bracket and just hit return. And as you can see, it's done the sum of the total number of Spotify streams, which is, I don't even know, a really big number in the millions. And now what I want to do is get the average of those. So similar to the sum, I say to myself, this cell is equal to, and then I put average, and then again I'm going to drag the data, so it's D4 to D13, and click enter, and the average is 138.4 million streams, which is quite a lot of streams, I would say. So now what I want to do is I want to teach you a quicker way to autofill your data, or autofill your formulas. So if you want to quickly find the average, quickly find the sum, there is a better way to do it. So I'm just going to delete what I have already, and I'm going to highlight the data that I want calculated. And then do you see this symbol here? This is the auto sum symbol. So if I click the arrow, there is so many different autofill options that I can choose from. So I just want an auto sum. And as again, it does the same thing. It calculates all those numbers and gives me the sum. Same if I wanted the average, okay? So if I'm going to go average, it's going to do the same thing. Now, if I want the minimum of the data set, it's the same as the sum and the average. So I go, this cell is equal to, then I want to type in for the maximum, for example, max. And then I'm going to drag, and hopefully it should tell me that WAP by Cardi B, which is the 716 million streams, is the maximum. But let's have a look. Yep, it sure does. That is great. Now I want to say the minimum. So then again, this cell is equal to min, and then I'm going to drag it again, and it should tell me that Cherub by Ballpark Music with 4 million streams is the least. That is right. I'm just going to give it some formatting, put it in the center like the others, and there we go. That tells me the sum, the average, the maximum, and the minimum values. There are a lot of different formulas you can use. Another option, instead of writing it in the cell, is to write it up here. And again, if you start typing, it will try to autofill to what they think you're using. So there is a lot of different ones that you could explore, and I highly recommend you having a look at what ones might suit your data. But these are the basic 4 that I always use. I don't tend to use a lot of other things, but you might. So I would really, again, encourage you to explore. So I'm just going to remove those for the time being. What did I do? Oops, let's just fix that and delete those. So now I'm back to just the basic table that just has the conditional formatting and the country formatting. But what I want to do is if I have a larger set of data, say if I have 100 rows, and I want to filter and organize and see only a particular setting. For example, I only want to see Australian artists. There is a handy tool called the filter tool. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight the areas which I want filtering. And then I'm going to press this button here, sort and filter, and then I'm going to press filter. And as you can see, little drop downs appear under each title. So for example, if I only want to see Australian artist, I can go onto this little drop down, deselect all, only select Australia, and then you can see that only the Australian artists appear. Okay, so then I'll select back if I want to get rid of the Australian artist, then only the USA and the Great Britain will appear. Okay, so that is a really good way to organize your data, specifically if you have a lot of data cells that you want to organize. Another really handy tool that I think you guys would benefit from in your assignment, because it is such a large data set, is what is called freeze panes. Now, freeze panes is a way to freeze a certain row or column of your data. So when you scroll either horizontal or vertically, it freezes. Okay, so when you're trying to search for a particular cell in your data, it's really hard having to scroll and not knowing what, for example, 10 is. Or what is 10 again? Is it number of streams? Is it the place in a list? I don't know, because then I have to scroll all the way back up to see what the actual heading was, and it just gets confusing. So a good way to do that is to use a freeze pane. So what you're going to do is you're going to highlight what you want freezed below. So for example, if I want this row frozen, I'm going to highlight this row. Okay, and then in the view ribbon on your Excel, I am going to click freeze panes. So then that puts a line above what I've selected, and now when I scroll, it is always there. So I can see what this place would be, what this number of stream would be, etc. Okay, so there is only one more thing that I want to show you, and is probably the most relevant tool for you in your assignments, is how to make a graph. There are a lot of different ways to make a graph in Excel. Again, I am probably going to teach you the easiest way, but feel free to explore other options if you don't like the way that I'm teaching you. So what I'm going to do is, if I want a simple graph, just say I want the artist and the streams. I want that in the graph. I don't want the whole table. I just want to graph the artist and the streams they have. I'm just going to highlight that section. So using my command key, highlight artist and streams, and then I'm going to hit Alt or Option and F1. Okay, and then that automatically gives me a graph based off those streams. So I'm just going to move it around so you can see it better. Cool. So now we have this graph. Now, if I just want to do some quick editing, because you might want to create your graph in something like Infogram later on, but you just want to be able to see the options right now, what I'm going to do is hit Chart Design ribbon and have a look at the quick layout option. And there's so many different options you can choose. I might like this one, but this one's all right, but it just doesn't really make sense. So the key doesn't really make sense. The axis could be improved. So what I'm going to do now is click this one up here called Switch Row and Column, which again organizes the data more effectively. So the songs represented by a key and the streams on the y-axis. Now there are a lot of other different options you can do. This is not, obviously, by last week's tutorial, this is not the most effectively designed column or bar graph. So it'll be up to you to try to improve that, okay? But if you wanted to have a quick edit, you can always edit the actual type of graph itself. So maybe I want to change it to a pie, but again, switching rows and columns. And it tells me in the form of a pie graph stream, the streams count. That still might not be the right graph for you. So maybe I want something like a back to this and then switching it again. Who knows? It's up to you to decide, but that is how you quickly insert a graph. Another option is to edit the style. So there's a lot of different formatting options that you can choose from. This one's quite nice, but again, you can't really see the key, so we have to change it by clicking the formatting. There we go. Cool, so that is it for my pretty much very basic Excel rundown. Next week we'll be diving into deeper on how to do more advanced stuff with Excel, but this should really get you started for today's tutorial. So now that we have watched this video, you should have a basic understanding on some of the tips and tricks that you could use to make your Excel life a lot easier. So for this activity, there is a data set on Canvas which outlines all the weather patterns in Sydney from 2011 to 2017. So if you download that off Canvas, that's what we'll be using for this week. So using the tips taught in the video, have a go at implementing the following options to the data set. You could use conditional formatting, have a go at not just color or bold, see if you can experiment, use formulas, try and see about other formulas that weren't in the video, have a go at filtering, freeze panes, and also make at least 3 graphs. Okay, you will need those for activity 2.
All right, I'll pause there. And I'll stop sharing. Oh, okay, Zoom. There we go. All right, so grab your data and start doing those things. I'll take a quick screenshot of this and pop it up in the Slack so you guys know what you're doing.
And you can find the data set in Canvas under modules for week 3 as well. So it'll be the weather CSV file.
So just an update on my getting Excel problem. I have to uninstall the existing.
So weird.
Does anyone else? I'm talking to the students. Do any of the students have any issues getting onto Excel and maybe would prefer? Maybe I should do a breakout for Google Sheets people and maybe run through the things again. Yep. I got one person. You're in. All right. I'll do that. And I'll see you guys back here in 20-ish.
Cool.
Let participants choose rooms. Google Sheets room. Let me know if you guys can join that. It should be an available breakout room now. Oh, I got to click open all rooms. Yep, forgot to do that. And yep, see one person's in. You guys are in. All right, I'll see you in there.
Hey Joel.
There you go.
Good, good.
Cool.
Actually awake today. Wow.
I had my coffee this morning and I'm feeling a little bit jittery.
Jittery. Okay.
Yeah. One sec. Just let me uninstall that other office while I'm here. Professional Plus 2016. Yeah, no thanks. It's so weird that how that even got onto this computer, because this computer was like built in, I think, 2019 at the very latest. I mean, at the very earliest. So however 2016 got on here, I'll have no idea. Now my Sheets account. Hopefully I'm still signed in. Yes, I'm still signed in. All right, sharing screen. Where are you? There we go. Okie dokie. So I grabbed the weather CSV and just downloaded it to my computer. I'm going to import it. So I'll go File, Import. I'll just be doing the example on this because I don't think I actually have access to the that Triple J data that was used in the example, but it should all be the same. Assignment one? No. Where did that go? Sure, new spreadsheet. Didn't that go? Hurry up. What? Okay. Oh, because I clicked new spreadsheet. My bad. So I've got two spreadsheets. Anyway, so what was first? I think she talked about copying formatting. So first off, something that she didn't cover was how to do that. So I think it was bold and italic. And let's bring up the font a little bit. So these options are just up here. If you select the cell, that kind of makes sense. Sorry, this bar is in the way and it's annoying. All right, now the way to copy formatting here, well, I guess we have that button too, which I've never used. Okay, well, there you go. Another way to do that would be, which is how I normally do it, is I just go to paste format only, which has got a shortcut, Control-Alt-V. And that doesn't work. All right, cool. Yeah, so this paintbrush thing, that's pretty cool. Never used that before in my life. And it exists. Okay, so conditional formatting. Let's run through what's some good. Yeah, let's go minimum temperature. It's a good one. So I'm going to highlight that, and the way you find conditional formatting on Google Sheets is up here under format and then conditional formatting. Sorry, got to move you guys out of the way. And then I think the first example was color scale, right? Which, yeah, you just hit here, hit color scale, and you can do something similar to what Brett did. You can also flip it so it's the other way. If you want to pick your own colors, you can do that. Wow, it's really unreadable, isn't it? Great job. Yeah. What else was there? Next formatting was text formatting, I think. Some good text. Let's go with this row. And I'm gonna take away that formatting. This time, you just leave it on single color. Even though we're not using color, we actually want to just ignore this really. So no color formatting, but this is how you do sort of other things. As you can see in this drop down, you've got a few different things to go with. Text contains is usually pretty robust. Let's say we only care about, well, let's say east northeast because it's specific and we want to make that bold, and suddenly every east northeast is bold. If it was text contains and we were trying to just get northeast, obviously that wouldn't work because we'd get both of those. So we'd have to be like text is exactly. But yeah, there's some good stuff in here. There's also custom formula, which is a little bit more advanced. If you do need help with that, let me know. If you do want to do something very specific. But yeah, actually, I'm going to give you guys a good resource. This guy does some crazy stuff with sheets. Ben L. Collins. I've been following his stuff for years. He kind of stays on the new trends, the new updates and stuff. Let's see, recent functions. He also does some sort of basic stuff, I guess. All right. Anyway, sorry, I'll stop looking at that. benlcollins.com. He's a madman. Personal hero of mine. Next up, there was functions. How long? This data is pretty long. I'm going to check my functions just over here because I don't want to go to the bottom of this data. Oh, no, wait, I showed you guys how to get the shortcut to the bottom of data, didn't I? You hold control and you can use the arrow keys and it'll take you sort of to the beginning and the end. So that should be the last row. Yeah, there we go. We just went through 2,280 cells. You're welcome. All right, first went through sum. So all of this should be exactly the same as in Excel. The sum function is exactly the same. You can also click and drag. I'm not going to do the whole column because it's annoying, but yeah, you do get that. I'm not going to go through them all because it is literally exactly the same. Something I'm curious about is this autofill. Do we have that? Again, not a function that I've used. Hang on. Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay, I'm learning things too. Apparently there's a lot of similarities. Cool. Oh, yeah, and this is sort of a very important point if you're using Google Sheets. Get up top again. So the way this was done is, well, I guess, hang on, just shift to get a whole range. Shift click. That's how I did that. So filters can be a bit destructive in Google Sheets. So like if I only care about days where it was raining today, I'd be like, only yes. Oh, and it hasn't actually destroyed my data. Well, that's good. But yeah, I would recommend before you do things like applying filters and stuff is actually to duplicate your sheet. Actually, I'll get rid of these filters because you
go for the
kind of
filtering
want,
again?
sorry?
Do you go for the filtering? How do you filter it again?
Absolutely. Yep. So this is my recommendation is that you duplicate a sheet before sort of applying things like that. So copy of weather, and you just sort of, call the other one raw weather or something. And then over here, I'm going to click and I'm going to hold shift to click, and that selects this entire range. You can also control to click if you only want certain things. But I'm just going to get them all. You can also just click and drag. And then you just up here, create a filter. Create a new filter view. Well, this is where it does get destructive. Filter views and filters are very different things. So filter views are destructive, at least the last time I used them. That's kind of why I avoid them. So I'm just going to say only days that where it rained today. Oh, and it hasn't destroyed it again. Maybe that's a new update. What it used to do is it used to just sort of eliminate. So obviously it's hidden the rows that are 2, and 3 because it wasn't raining that day. But it used to actually not maintain what row it was. So that's changed sometime in the last 2 years, I guess. Anyway, I've been avoiding all these things because they didn't work, and now they work fine. And you can get rid of the filter view. But this was how I did it before. I just click create a filter. Back to normal. Clear all. Conditions. Oh yeah, conditions are pretty cool, actually. I will go through those real quick. So I don't know exactly what this data means, probably hours of sunlight. Now I'm gonna go condition greater than, say, 10. And now I've only got things in here that are greater than 10. And what that has actually done is it's just sort of selected every value that was possible and got rid of all the ones. Now, if I want to select everything, go back to normal, I can click select all. Well, I can click clear and then select all, and it should, oh no, that doesn't. Anyway. Reset. Anyway, I've got to do that to get all of these back. Bit of a fiddly thing, that one. Good thing about filter views is you can bring them back as well. Close them, which is pretty handy. What was I up to? Got a bit sidetracked there. Oh, freezing. So freezing works a little bit differently. Typically what I do is I'll just click the row and then go view freeze. And then you can usually like no rows, 1 row, 2 row, they're always up there. If you want to get to greater rows, I'm going to insert some cells up here. Oops, insert a few rows above. Because, maybe this is where you want to freeze. And in order to do that, I've just selected it and I can go freeze up to row 6.
What's freezing?
And that's how you'd get up to like higher amounts than 1 or 2. I'll just delete these. So now that's always at the top. It's much easier to see. Now it's the graph stuff. Graphs I have always hated in Google Sheets. They just, I don't know. Again, that's another thing that I sort of avoid because they didn't work well, and I'm about to be proven that they now work really well. I'm assuming. All right, let's say care about dates. So I'm going to get out of that column. And let's say we care about rainfall. Location always Sydney? Looks like it. So dates and rainfall. Let's get a graph on that. Insert chart, they're called here. Give it some time to load, and we get this big, ugly, unreadable thing. Sorry, I got to move you guys out of the way. Here's chart editor over on the right. And this is where you change between things. I probably have a little bit too much data to sort of display. Maybe I should select a smaller range. Yeah, I think I will. Actually, no, before I do that. No, wait, go back to edit chart. Switch rows and columns, which is what Britt was doing, doesn't work here because we're not sort of using categorical things. Date and rainfall don't really make sense as their own column. But yeah, that's how you would do that. Row 1 is headers. That usually helps if you've got things up here. Did it change? No. Oh, yes, it does. So it was using date before. And if you want to change colors and things, that's all in here. Doesn't make sense. Rain's not red. What does this button do? I don't know. This is where you put a legend. Anyway, I should stop playing around so you guys can get on with the task, but I've kind of already done the first one for you. How much time have we got left on this? We don't have any time at all. We've got about 2 minutes. So yeah, have you guys been sort of following along? Cool. You guys got your graph? I think you will need a graph for the next bit, so quickly throw some up there. I think we were meant to have 3 graphs. You know what? I'm going to clear all this data, and I'm going to make this my graphs page and grab those from raw weather. And I want rainfall. Yeah. That didn't work. Why aren't you selected? So they're just there. I click Control C and Control V because I couldn't keep this selected while I was making a chart over here for some reason. Normally, Google Sheets is pretty good for that. Yep, horrible graph. Let's make another. 5 columns. No. Does that make sense? No. Yeah, that's a cool one. All right, we should probably get back into the other room. See you back in there. We're back.
You're back.
All right, so how'd everyone go with that task? Not finished? Nobody's finished? You guys will need 3 graphs, I think, for the next one. All right, we'll kick on then. Oh, somebody's in chat. So Killy has a question about, is that about cheats or, oh no, that's to me, direct message. Yeah, so it's a question about separating out things by text. In this case, it's wind gust direction. If you're using contains and you say W, then it will pick up everything like west southwest or west northwest. If you wanted to only do west, you just do text is exactly W, and that will exclude things like west southwest and west northwest. All right, we'll get back to the shoot video. There it is.
Pause here to complete the task. So now that we have a basic understanding on how Excel works, we are going to take those 3 graphs and transform them into an infographic. But first, we need to understand our key audiences. Thinking back on Kaz's Week 2 lecture, pick an interesting fact that you want to highlight in your visualization. Before you start designing an infogram, Decide on a particular target audience and consider what needs they will have when viewing and interpreting your infographic. For example, if I were to design this infographic for, say, farmers, I would have to consider what is the most important facts they will need to know, which in this case probably would be rain. I would ask myself, is that effectively highlighted? I would assume that they would want to be able to quickly read the infographic, so the design itself needs to be accessible to people who aren't familiar with data visualization. Have a go coming up with your own target audience and needs. You have 15 minutes.
All right, I'm going to take a screenshot of that task. Stop the share. Get out of the way. All right, I've put the task up as a still on the remote boat. And we've all got the same data set. So start thinking about what it means, I guess. Maybe you try to think about what you care about, because it's easier to care about the things that you care about rather than try to get into the mental space of somebody that cares about different things to you.
I love refrigerators.
Just to address some direct messages. Yes, we're not an infogram yet, but we are going to infogram. Currently, you're going to be looking at the data and working out sort of something that you want to show, or like who your audience is. And then once we're done with this, so we've got 10 more minutes of this, and then we'll be moving to infogram. And yeah, if you want to. Sure. Yeah, we can go through the data. So you can put your examples in the chat or in the Slack or either. Oh, so you're asking me for examples. I misread that. So the example that Britt gave was farmers. So this is all data to do with the weather, and she was saying that farmers would care about rainfall, and the reason why they would be an audience that cares about that is because they rely on that when they planting crops and things like that. Another example might be maybe you're planning when to take a holiday. So you care about when there's going to be lots of sunshine because you plan to go to the beach. It's sort of your audience changes what data you might be looking for. And so right now what you're looking for is your audience and thinking about what they would want. Another example might be wind gust direction. That sort of information is important to a few groups of people. People who like boating, sailboats, people who fly kites, I guess. I think surfers usually like wind going in a particular direction. Otherwise, it blows the waves to bad shapes for them. Yeah. Try to think about an audience first, maybe. If you can't find an audience for your data, which I really think, everyone has an interest in weather. So try to think of an audience first and then think about what they would like. Do you guys agree with that approach? I just got Excel installed. Cool. All right, that's 15 minutes. Is everyone good and got their audience well thought out? I hear no complaints. Must mean you're all good. All right, I'll continue on with that video. We'll go on to the next task.
Have a go coming up with your own target audience and needs. You have 15 minutes. Pause here to complete the task. Taking into account the target audience you have defined and their needs, it is now time to design your infographic. Here are some things to consider. Where will your audience be viewing your infographic? Relating back to the farmer example, they will be probably viewing the infographic remotely and digitally. So I would design for a tablet or phone device. Does your infogram meet their needs? Again, back at the farmer example, is it easy to read? Do they need to have an understanding of how the InfoVis works before they look at it, or is it good to go straight away? Design your InfoVis and infogram for the remainder of the tutorial. Take things into account like color theory, sizing, proportion, Gestalt principles. In studio time, your tutor will facilitate a user testing session where you can test the effectiveness of your visualization. Pause here to complete the task.
Again,
So It's just asking us to identify audience in infographic.
This time you're going to design your infographic, but what we really want you to do is sort of take the audience into account, that audience that you've identified, and try to work out, if you remember from the lecture videos, a lot of what testing is about is sort of asking what the audience needs, and then what we'll do is we're going to be looking at your infographic that you create, and we're going to see if it fills those needs.
An infograph?
Yeah, in Infogram.
Okay.
So I'll just paste that into Slack. Can I just test something real quick? I'm going to go back into sharing the screen, and I'm going to mute myself while the video is playing. And I want to know if it mutes the video as well. It'd be very good to know for the future.
You can choose from.
Alright, so I'm muting myself now.
This one's quite nice, but again, you can't really see the key, so we have to change it by clicking the formatting. There we go. Cool, so that is it for my pretty much very basic Excel rundown. Next week we'll be diving into deep
audio?
Nope, it was all good.
Nope. Okay. Well, that's pretty handy then. Sorry. I'm asking the other tutors here. Are we working? So everybody's working on the task, and I just thought, are we? Yeah, it makes sense that we're actually going through it in the studio, right? And that's when we're doing user testing.
Yeah, so we'll do the user testing probably at the start of the studio, I would imagine.
Yeah, that makes more sense. I was like, surely we don't have time for that.
We don't have time, no.
It's an interesting problem. Do you want to? We'll jump. Sorry, I've just got a direct message from Gabby about hashtags, dates showing up as hashtags. Do you want to? We'll jump into a breakout. Call that hashtag issue room. Yeah, I'll jump in there. You can maybe screen share with me.
Yo,
Hey.
what's the issue in the issue room?
Oh, it's when you open up the CSV in Excel, it comes up in as hashtags. Oh, I think I know what this issue is. Yeah, this really doesn't need. This doesn't need to have a breakout room. I'm going back into the other room, and I'm just going to share screen. All right, I'll see you back in there. Hey guys, sorry, I'm back. That really didn't need to be a breakout room. I'm going to share this to everyone because it's something that I had the same issue with. When you open up the CSV, which I just did to have a look and see if I had the same issue, I do. I'll just share that. Yeah, basically, like if your data is too big for a cell, oh, I'm having trouble clicking things when I'm sharing this window. Anyway, yeah, if it's too small to show it, it will show up as hashtags, which is an interesting way to do it. I would have just tried to cram the data in there, but yeah, that's what'll happen. So yeah, if you just expand out your columns like that, by just sort of grabbing these little bits here, yeah, you should be fine. Also, you can double click and it'll auto size to the largest data, which is pretty handy as well. Anyway, let's solve that one.
Joel, you're muted, by the way.
Yep, thank you for that. Yeah, so I'm talking about the date issue that popped up in the chat. I've got the similar thing, and it's because I think this is the reason. When I've imported the CSV into Excel, it's used my local date format and assumed that I'm working with that. Now my local date format is ISO 6801, which is year, month, day. Which, yeah, as you can see, my stuff got completely shredded, and it thinks that I've got dates all over the place. I'm gonna fix that. Well, I feel like importing the CSV, it should ask me what it wants, but yeah. You feel free to minimize me if you don't care, but I'm just gonna fix it with some functions. I'm gonna grab the year out of this particular guy. It's gone 2001. Is there a format? Nope. Those aren't helpful. All right, I'm gonna go data. How do I tell you what to be? Sorry, getting used to Excel now. Format cells? Oh, this is not a good way to do it. I'm going back to sheets. The interesting thing is that sheets will also have issues interpreting dates, just because certain dates are like mean other things. So you will get weird alignment issues. And also, you will also, if you happen to ever get into genome sequencing, you will run into issues when you're typing in certain genomes, and that will be interpreted as dates. So the issue works both ways, and that doesn't help. Can you use a split function? Split it by slashes. Yep. Let's pull that all the way down. Gonna take forever. Anyone know a faster way to do this?
I'm not too sure.
Is there an autofill button? Surely there must be, right? Anyway, I'm going to do this one, which is just to select it. That selected the right thing, Control C, and then just bring it down. And I'm just going to paste it after this. I should get the right thing. Yeah, I do. And then I'll do it. Oh, cool. I've actually exceeded the range. Good. I can hold Shift and hit page up. That makes it faster. Delete. So I want to get rid of these.
I don't know if it's just my screen, but I can only see your Excel, not your Google Sheets.
Oh, yeah.
Stuff.
Sorry, I'm still sharing the wrong window. I will maybe get used to this one day, or maybe I never will. Yeah, so the split function, I've just dragged this all the way down. Well, I actually copy pasted it because it's faster. Let's Go to the top, thank you. And what split does is you can split strings by delimiters. So I've just said split A2, this is A2, and that's the stroke. Now I'm just gonna do some funky stuff to make sure that my years are correct. If length of this is less than 4, equals add 2000. All the dates are after 2000. That works for me. Yep, and that otherwise, just do the date. Autofill, yay. Cool, now I've got my years properly. Yep, I'm not gonna check all of those. I'm just gonna assume that it's right. Oops, not left. Go date. Converts year, month, day to whatever format I like. Year. It's my month, yes. And that's my date. Autofill, yes. Cool. So now I sort of messed around with this. This wasn't being interpreted as a date. Now it is, because it's all on the left. That's how I know that. Yeah, you can change the date format. I'm going to Control C that. Actually, no. Grab the whole column. Control C that. Go over here, and I'm going to go paste values only. So I'm just going to replace all of those there with the proper dates. Complete. Let's see what happens if I try to export this as a CSV. Actually, I'll download it as an Excel sheet and I'll drop that into the Slack. That should make things a little easier. Let's make sure it opens correctly first. Yep, no. Yes, my dates are a lot better now. All right, I'll drop that Excel into the Slack. All right, I've lost all my stuff. Is cool. So if you guys are having date issues like I was, like most of us are, just grab that one and it should import those dates as dates. If you want me to go into why that issue comes up, it's file formats. Excel does some things to say like this is a date, whereas CSVs are comma separated values. There aren't really anything special to CSVs. They are literally just text with commas in between. So every time you import that into either Google Sheets or Excel, it will try to do some sort of interpretation of what that data means. And unfortunately, in our case, that has screwed up our dates. Jason's just asked how we get Google Sheets to do number of yes, nos. You can, I'm pretty sure that was one of the charts that worked pretty instantly for me, but I will go through it in more advanced way. I'll share my sheet again. Bring us back a column. Let's say we're counting rain today column. There's a function, and I'm pretty sure it exists in Excel. Quite sure, 99% sure. It's called count if. So I should go through count first. If I do count and I select, say, these 6. Oh, okay. That's actually counting only values, interestingly. Yeah, so count A will count the number of values. Count only counts these. Let's see what happens when I do that. So it's just counted how many things there are, which is 10. I think I selected 10. Yeah. Now let's go back to count if. Let's pick our range. We can keep the heading in because we're just checking if it's yes or no. If it's rain today, it doesn't count it. So, all right. And now I'm just going to put in no, and keeping in mind that this is comparing a string, so it does care about capitalization. So there we go. That's all I count of no's. Now I'll do the same thing for yes. Actually, I'll drag that down so I don't have to retype it all again. And I'll just change this to yes. That's how many yeses, and that's how many no's. Sorry, I was messing around something else. Yep, that should work. And then when you get that into Infogram, it'll just be a matter of sort of entering that into the data columns. Actually, don't have Infogram open. That's bad of me. So many logins, it's hard to remember which one I use. Can you account maybe? Okay, none of my emails have infogram email sent to them. Sorry, just checking. Was I muted before? But how did you hear what I was saying? Oh, you
Went
didn't?
back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I was saying raining today and raining tomorrow should have the same data set, essentially. They're just offset by 1 day. Because if it's raining tomorrow, then the next day will have the same value. Sorry. I just need giant signs that tell me when I'm muted.
Hello.
So am I muted? No. Okay, excellent. Question in the chat about the assignment. Can you give an example of a chart of templates not using infogram? So the basic graphs aren't sort of considered templates, I suppose. I think when what they're referring to are some of the much more sort of developed visual looks, I guess I'd call them. Let me have a look, see what I can find.
They have specific templates for infographics on Infogram, so I think it's talking about those type of templates.
It's not talking about templates for charts. We kind of feel like those are usually basic enough. But I think it's always going to be better if you do modify even the basic charts, just with colors, fonts, things like that. You know, flex your design muscles. Yeah, I think those ones are okay. Well, we're not considering those templates. I mean, those are template charts. The infographics were the templates that we were talking about. I'll share my screen again. Sorry to bother everyone. Does it pop up as screen share when I do this? So this is what we're talking about when we're talking about infographic templates. Just these much more developed visual things. So you should be aiming to create something like this without using these, is basically the assignment. Going back to just making a new one. Like here, I've made some more pie chart. Pulling up these and adding charts from here is not the same thing. We consider these just charts rather than templates. We've run pretty well on time today. I think this last task was the last one, and we were meant to be spending about 40 minutes on it. And I think we're going to end spot on.
Are we showing what we've done now for the studio?
In the studio, yes.
Okay.
Yes,
cool.
we'll be doing sort of user testing analysis. So if you don't remember that from the lectures, just quickly flip through the lectures and familiarize yourself with what user testing is. Which, if I can quickly summarize it, it's making sure that your chart does the thing that you planned to do with it in a very basic and simple way. Definitely go to the lectures for a better explanation. Jason, I would make your infographic look as good as you can, given the time that you have. For the assignment, it's gonna, put some effort in. But like for now, you've only got so much time, right? Yeah, okay, I'll run through that. We got a minute. I'll actually delete that. One sec. Okay. Well, it's 1 o'clock, so if everyone feels confident about what they've done, otherwise I'm going to just quickly do this pie chart thing. So I just clicked the make new graph pie chart, but say if I'm starting with something blank, I'm going to come over to chart, and then I can look for pie chart, or I can type pie chart. Sorry, I just realized yesterday was Pi Day. How fitting. I drop this in and it gives me this demo one. Now over on the right here, I've got how to change the colors and all that. I can also click edit data. So I do have to be selected on this. If I'm not selected on this, I don't have the access to that. Oh, cool, tabs. Yeah, and I can click edit data and this pops up. And basically what I did is I just deleted it. I said, yes, no, and rain. And I can't remember what numbers they were, but let's just say there was 1,000 days of rain and 500 days of no rain. And it'll just pop that up. And then you want to whack a title in, because what's a graph without a title? Did it rain? Good title, bad title? I'll leave that up to you. Sorry, trying to move that. Get out of here.
So in terms of the Excel, finding how much, like what the percentage of raining was. How do you do that? Sorry, like
That one again?
formula-wise?
No trouble.
Yeah.
It was count if I used. So I'll just do that again. Count if, and that should exist on Excel. I'm just going to double check that while I'm here because, you know.
It does. I tested it out
Does.
before.
Cool.
Should work. Oh, actually,
so-
not. Maybe.
Yeah, so I just type count if, and then I've got to specify the range. So I guess it depends whether you care about rain today or tomorrow. I'm going to say rain today. So I just click that column to select the whole thing. J to J, if I'm not specifying numbers, would just give me the whole column. Now there is other data in here. Like if I accidentally typed rain today, and I've got the heading in there, that's actually going to count this one, but I don't really care because rain today is not no and it's not yes. I only care about no. That's counting every single time that this is no within this range. And then I'll do the same. Count if, oops, select the range, and I will type, and you got to put it in inverted commas because it is passing it as a string and it's comparing this, for example, to this. If you do forget that, it will just give you an error or say 0 because yes isn't the right data. Definitely need those. Does that make sense?
Cool. Thank you.
And the pie chart did these percentages automatically for me. But if you did want to work those out, you could just do some maths on these two numbers and work out what percentage it is of the total. If I was like that over sum of that plus that, yeah, sum of those two. Also, I'm working here, which is 2,247. There's no reason why I should be, but it also doesn't matter because I've specified J to J, and I know that goes all the way to the top to the bottom. Oh, no, that doesn't work. I will make sure that that is absolute referenced. Cool. And so that's what the percentages that I should get from those numbers. If I add those together, I should get 100%. Oops. Oh, 1. Make that a percentage. Cool. All right, that's class. I'm gonna go get some water and some food because I'm starving. See you in the studio.
Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you for the lesson.
No trouble. I really am so hungry.
I don't think these people are leaving. All right. See you later. Gonna get some lunch.
Bye.